All right, guys, just before we start the episode real quick, just want to check in with you, tell you how you can come support the show. If you get any value out of the show whatsoever, it'd be cool if you come return the value to us. We've got rockfin.com/Truthzilla, where you can create a premium account, watch all of our premium episodes up there. Patreon, come support us over there. We got premium episodes that we're uploading pretty much every week at this point. We had a little snafu this week. We were trying to get one out for you. Also, the Truthzilla shirt shop is on fire. Come check it out. Truthzilla.org/shirts. We got the most controversial shirts in the business, so come check that stuff out.
The new ones, Fauci gave us all AIDS.
Yeah, it's pretty epic. It's pretty epic, right? Thank you, Darren from Gramerica, for sporting it, dude. That's so badass. Please join us on the Telegram channel. Go to Telegram, download the Telegram app, and then the channel is at Truthzilla Pod. That way you can get like direct information right from us. It isn't filtered or algorithm and all that stuff. And we got a new Discord channel. So check the show notes. You will see the address to our Discord channel, which is pretty rad. We got like a crypto channel, a conspiracy channel. We got like a guest suggestion channel, general conversation channels. We're all
spirituality,
memes. Yes, memes. Drop your best memes. So like you guys, the Mind Militia comes together. You can chat, whatever. It's badass. So come join us over there too. So anyways, I've got an awesome show for you tonight. So enjoy.
Welcome to Truthzilla. I am Megan, sitting here with Scott and Ed. Our guest today is Matt Landman. He is an activist and the filmmaker behind the epic and eye-opening documentary Frankenskies. He hosts the website actualactivists.com and is the CEO of Spero Protection Clothing, protecting you from harmful EMF radiation. Welcome, Matt. How are you?
Hey, y'all. Thanks so much for having me on. I'm doing great today. How about you three?
Well, doing pretty good.
Well, it was a beautiful day here in Eugene.
Yes.
I certainly, knowing that this interview is coming up, I certainly noticed a lot of chemtrails today. I'll point that out right off the bat.
We were sending each other pictures in our group chat today of our different perspectives around town.
One of the things I've been noticing too, like I happened to be out last night. It was probably maybe like 10 o'clock at night. And I just noticed massive amounts of them, like 4 or 5 very thick ones all the way across the sky at night. And I'm like, oh, that's what they're doing. They're doing it at night. So it doesn't stand out as much. Like that's when the real campaign happens. But I don't know, man. We got the expert here. I'm super excited about this.
Did you get a heat wave today too? Heat wave?
Yeah, definitely.
Yep.
Sure did. Yeah,
accompanied with it for sure. Me too.
Wow. So, we put out an assignment for our listeners and to go out and watch Frankenskies. Hopefully that many of them did. And if you guys have not, encourage you, maybe pause this, go watch Frankenskies, and then come back to this interview, because we're here with Matt Landman, who the man behind that amazing documentary. It's just like sitting there watching it, like one of the things Ed pointed out, it's just like there's like not really any narration to it. It's mostly just showing just what this is. It's very blatant. And the thing that really struck me is just like how long this has been going on. Like this is such when people want to label somebody and discredit them as a conspiracy theorist, it's always the chemtrails, it's always the 5G that makes us sound crazy. And it's so amazing how that straw man argument has become what it is, because when in fact that is, when you get down to it, man, that's all. This is it right here. Like this is the big one right here. This is the big one.
Yeah, certainly. I mean, I always thought like, I got into this movement more from like the vaccine angle, right? And when that was like my big lie, when I uncovered how big that lie was, I like everything, the whole world opened up. It's like, oh man, they might be lying about everything. But seriously, just having been in here for a little while and seeing that movie, I was blown away. I'm like, maybe there's something even worse going on, right? Like they're poisoning the air we're actually breathing, like on a constant basis. And it's really, and I know over the last couple years, we've seen some crazy weather, especially knowing this information. It changes things quite a bit. Yes. But Matt, I guess in order for any of our listeners that don't know who you are and whatnot, can you kind of just give like a little rundown of how you got into this movement before you made this movie? Like how did Matt Landman like become the geo-engineering chemtrails guy? It's like speaking out and like hosting activism across the country, really.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, for sure. I'd love to. And thanks for watching the movie, and thanks for mentioning that there was no narration, because I made a documentary without a narrator, which is really tough, because I didn't want it to be like, hey, this is me, look at my journey. I got a camera in here, I'm pointing it at the sky. So I really didn't want to be that guy. I hardly wanted to be in the movie at all. You know, it's not about me. It never was. So for the story of how I became a chemtrail activist, well, I'm a normal dude. I'm super duper normal as far as I'm concerned. I mean, not nowadays because I'm not getting in the mainstream with any of it, but I grew up in Virginia and I wanted to be a filmmaker, but there was no film school. So I went to Virginia Tech, I got a business degree, and eventually I moved to California. And eventually I ended up in Northern California going to school at Humboldt State, the California State School. I got an MBA, Master's in Business from there. And then I finally, while I was in school working on my master's degree, I was able to study film, 16 millimeter film, like the old fashioned way. And it was really cool. And I started to really get into it. And then I got out of school and I got another job in an office as a finance analyst. And it was horrible. I was back in the rat race yet again. And someone offered me a position at an organic farm growing sunflowers and squash and potatoes, like literally. And it was an organic squash and potato farm. A lot of people like know about Humboldt and think it was something else, but it wasn't. It was a real farm. And on day one, I know, right? But on day one, yeah, people are like, oh, potatoes. No, on day one, I was growing potatoes and I learned about potatoes the first day there. And I was in my mid 30s. I'm 40 now. And I was like 33, I think. And I thought I knew everything. I graduated top of my class with a master's in business degree with a focus in strategic sustainability. And, you know, your ego gets really boosted up living in life, you know, just the ego really, it's a protective mechanism and whatever, but it really hypes you up. And when I learned how not grounded that I was, and I didn't even know potatoes grew potatoes. Like I've said this a lot on different shows, and I know I sound like a broken record, but literally I had no idea through my education and indoctrination that you take a potato and you stick it in the ground and it makes potatoes. And these potatoes have been trying to grow in my cupboard or under my sink throughout my whole life. And I had no idea that they're just trying to grow more potatoes. So that was like this big eye opener that I didn't know much. And I said, I'm going to really work this farm for at least a year. And we were in the midst of a catastrophic drought at the time, okay, in Northern California. And where I lived was very rural, very sparse air traffic. And I'd work a day on the farm, I'd see no planes or one plane go by. And in this instance, my farmer boss called me up and said, it's harvest season. We got to get you out here harvesting these pumpkins, real pumpkins. And I got out there because there was a big storm coming. It was like a 100% chance of rain for 5 days. And being in the midst of a catastrophic drought and living in like a almost rainforest in the Pacific Northwest surrounded by redwoods, literally the frogs were coming out from underneath my building, waiting for the storm. I could see the black storm clouds coming off the ocean. And these planes showed up and they zigzagged on the storm front. And not only was it an abnormal statistical anomaly of an irregular uptick in air traffic, you know, there was all these planes where there weren't days before or even earlier that day, but all these planes were leaving persistent linear cirrus cloud formations, these lines out of the back of the jets. And I didn't think anything of it. Really, I had no reference point whatsoever. I knew 9/11 was BS, but I didn't even know about vaccines. And, you know, as you start to ride this frequency of truth, other truths become self-evident and it all is all embracing. But at the time, I was just kind of limited in my, you know, I knew a little bit about GMOs and I was getting this knowledge base, but I witnessed full-on weather modification. These planes, like 20 planes, zigzag the sky. They leave this haze. These black storm clouds come in. Not a drop of rain fell. And I was happy because I didn't want to get wet in the field. But that memory was stuck in my head. And then fast forward a few months later, I'm complaining to a buddy back home about the kids nowadays. They don't know anything about anything. They don't even know about 9/11. And I can't relate to anybody. And my friend was like, yeah, well, those people, they're young. They weren't even alive in 2001, you know, nowadays, like some people, 18-year-olds weren't even alive in 2001. How can they have a reference point? And what they say is, I've heard both sides of the story. You know, they don't want to do research or be a conspiracy theorist. And they don't want to go around like, nobody's going to listen to them anyways if they start asking questions about 9/11, you know? So people have these standard responses when you bring these things up. But my buddy was like, how can they deny chemtrails? They're right in your face, they're in the sky all the time. And I was like, what's that? And I went on Google, I looked it up and I was like, oh, I saw that. I know what that is. And I started really digging, really getting into it for a few months. And I was like, I'm going to be a chemtrail activist. I'm going to make a chemtrail movie. But then I found all these activists that had already done it. And so I just tabled that idea, and I was like, whatever, I'll be a farmer, and I like my life. I don't want to be shunned by my friends and family and whatever. And I'd already been pretty shunned just asking people about chemtrails. I thought it was crazy. Just my close circle. I was like, do you know about this? You know, nobody knew about it. But that plagued me that no one knew about it. And down the line, I had kind of like a spiritual kick in the face. Like I kind of learned in my life that I thought, personally, I felt like there was good and evil on earth. And then I started not giving those chemtrails the benefit of the doubt. I was like, wait, those are evil. And I'm not evil, I'm good. And maybe I should bring some attention to that. So I like rewatched the movie, What in the World Are They Spraying by Michael J. Murphy. And I started really looking into all these different chemtrail activists. And they weren't doing a good enough job. Like I grew up in Washington, DC. I've got straight edge friends. I was a pretty straight edge kind of guy. Like if somebody tried to introduce crystals to me or astrology, I'd laugh in their face. You know, all those things are cool in my world now, but I was not there. And I know how people think, you know, and if you make a documentary, my friend, one of my mentors growing up, this older dude, he calls it the turd in the punch bowl. You tell people all these truths, you can make an amazing movie, but if there's one thing that someone can totally point out and be like, wait a second, you had a great party, but there's a turd in your punch bowl, bro. You know, it's that, like there was portions of the activism chemtrail movement that I thought were real big turds in the punch bowl. And it was really offsetting. And you can make an amazing movie about chemtrails, but if you're going to focus on a dead bush and say, it's obviously the chemtrails, look at the sky, look at this bush, you're going to throw people off and they're going to be like, look, I don't want to be associated with you Looney Tunes. So I wanted to really do it right. So I started bringing together all the activists in the space and hosting conferences firstly, because I wanted to get them all together in the same place so I could film them. And it kind of evolved into hosting conferences and then getting the footage together slowly but surely. And now I'm working on a sequel. And then I hosted this third chemtrail conference in Tucson, Arizona in 2008, which was a big showdown, 2018, which was a big showdown where the Bill Gates funded David Keith was to do this experiment to dim the sun in 2018. And we had a protest down there and a conference and a big rally and a concert. And it was totally insane. I got arrested that day and there was all these provocateurs and it was a lot. It was a crazy day, but we put their experiment to normalize chemtrails and to launch solar geo-engineering or solar radiation management, or different words, to dim the sun using chemicals to spray it in front of the sky. We put their experiment on hiatus. Now it's coming into the mainstream again, that they're going to do it in Sweden. And then the big news is that they're postponing it. I think the news, I'll pass the mic to you in a second, but there's this whole big hurrah about Bill Gates blocking the sun. And now it's been put on postponement for a year so they can do the research, make sure it's safe. But really, the news of them putting on hold is more a normalization, like announcement than anything. It's like bringing it to the public eye. Hey, we're going to be dimming your sun next year, not this year. By the way, we're going to be blocking the sun. You're welcome. So it's been getting really intense. And yeah, I just kind of got to a point where I knew no one knew about it. And I didn't think that the activism out there was doing it. You know, it wasn't being done right. I mean, there's controlled opposition and there's all these different things. But I started to learn that the contrail is just a con, you know, that's just another thing being sprayed in the atmosphere to mix with the other things to do different things. But it's really complex. And thanks for having me on, y'all.
Yes. Thank you so much for coming on. Like, seriously. I mean, that's what's great about your movie though, is, I mean, it's not narrated, but it's just clips of, you know, whether it's a president or, you know, a news clip or, you know, a CIA or whatever it is, you know, it's just all clips showing like they've been working on this for like 100 years now, like literally 100 years. So to think that they're not using it against us, and they've been coming at it from so many different angles, right? There's so many different angles they're using, but yeah, it's crazy. But it is, you know, you touched on David Keith, is that his name? I mean, I have to say, man, that guy is like a mad scientist, man. That guy freaked me out looking at him.
He's my arch nemesis.
Yeah, totally. He is insane, man. Like, but it is interesting that it feels like they're just seeding the public, just getting it out there, and they're waiting for the right moment. You know, it's kind of like what they're doing with COVID. You could almost say, right? Like, it's like they're just like putting it out there and taking the data in and like looking when the right time is, right? They're just taking all that data Like, I mean, I think it's all about the data these days, right? So they're seeing what the public can take, and they're, okay, we're gonna say Bill Gates wants to block out the sun, see how they react, right? Oh, we'll push it out a year, but yeah.
One of the things that I think too that really stands out about this, and whether you're talking about chemtrails or now with the microchip, it's always like, that's what they always attack us on. Oh, you crazy conspiracy theorists, you and your chemtrails. And then, you have the head of the CIA, John Brennan, right? Comes out and says, well, actually, we have this thing called stratospheric aerosol injection, which just happens to be the solution to all our problems. And, it's a great thing. And then Bill Gates, we're just going to spray some stuff in the sky, no big deal. This is the solution to everything. Same thing with the microchips now, like a couple of weeks ago, that what was it, 60 Minutes piece or something like that, where they literally say, like, this isn't the dreaded government tracking microchip. It's just your benevolent little government like microchip. You know what I mean? Like, it's just like, so we get to these points where these things that they've discredited us for so long, all of a sudden they say, no. What do you mean? No, this is great. Like, just gaslighting, just straight gaslighting. I mean, that's what it seems like to me. What do you think?
Well, I've done numerous presentations on this, and they'll literally show you photos of chemtrails and say, you're welcome, we're going to do this to your sky, while simultaneously on the same day flooding the media with crazy conspiracy theorists think that there's planes spraying chemicals in the sky, and they use the same exact photo. Like, if that's not gaslight, I mean, that's just, it is literally gaslighting. And the psychology behind it, it's very, very fascinating, because they don't want you to get singled out as going against the herd, especially right now, and they use the conditioning, the social programming, the complications of it all. Even just mentioning the CIA director talking about stratospheric aerosol injections, like, they give them these big fancy words. They call it stratospheric aerosol injections, geo-engineering, solar radiation management. NASA, with a budget of $52 million a day, has a CARE program, CARE. It's called Charged Aerosol Release Experiment. They have a fleet of drones, a fleet of planes, and they spray, they make noctilucent fake clouds, noctilucent clouds, they call them, by spraying aluminum, barium, strontium in the sky. And they'll literally do like information with disinformation, misinformation campaigns saying, oh, we're spraying your sky tonight. We're spraying your sky today. Don't worry if you see these different colors in the sky. That's barium. You're welcome. We're just doing experiments on blah, blah, blah. The Department of Energy has the Tropospheric Aerosol Program, TAP, T-A-P, document that's totally unbelievably revealing. Came out in 2001, right before 9/11. And it's called TAP DOE PDF. You can find that just by Googling that. And it's a 100-page PDF. And they literally outline launching a complete and total, a full-on program is launched in 2001. Publicly, but you got to know the right search terms. It's called TAP, the Tropospheric Aerosol Program, where they have a fleet of planes and drones to spray the sky they first grid over the city of Nashville. They extrapolate budgets. They spend like $4 million in 2001 on risk aversion and not getting exposed. And they literally, it's all right there, but never do they use the word contrail or chemtrail. The contrail in there, they call it a precursor gas. They'll spray these precursor gases that are the shorter trails. And then once the sky has enough of that precursor gas, then they can lay out a different chemical that mixes with that. And it starts to unravel when you do all this research, because everybody wants to know the who, what, why, where, when, how. They don't want people like us. It's really hard to convey these things to our friends, family, and peers if we don't have all the answers, because they ask us the questions. And if we don't have the answers, like, aha, gotcha, you don't know, and it's not real. And I can go ahead and put on my blinders. But it's like they ask questions like, why would they do that to us? And you're like, why would they do that to us? That's such a loose, open-ended question. It's like, first, they're evil sociopaths. Are you that? You can't put yourself in those shoes. They also ask and the why is actually easily answered if you do look into the Tropospheric Aerosol Program through the Department of Energy, because the Department of Energy wants to dim the sun. Why would they want to do that? Well, maybe they don't want dirty energy like coal and oil they want that to proliferate. They don't want solar power to proliferate. So they want to keep their rain, their greedy, evil, dirty energy. I mean, that kind of makes sense. Greed and evil, and they don't want to lose their grip. But people really want to know all those things. And you can start to, ask me who, why, when. I have all the answers, but it's like the why really plagues people. Why would they spray themselves? If you look at it just from a financial aspect, the Department of Energy, these dirty, dirty energies, like if solar power really got there and we were all using these photovoltaic energy efficient things, we wouldn't need oil or coal anymore. And then all of their scams, you know, and all their bankrolls would come fall. This house of cards would just come falling down, you know.
Well, and I think, I mean, you know, I look at it from the angle of like our food system and our vaccines and things like this, you know, like all these, like all the GMO foods were being served, and then, you know, the vaccines are ingesting us, and then the aluminum and the barium that we're breathing in. I mean, it all keeps us coming back to big pharma for that's the answer, right? Like here's the problems that you're dealing with, but it all keeps us coming back. And I wonder how much percentage of it comes back to just that piece of just like we're breathing all this toxic shit all the time, right? Like, and again, there, I mean, I think there's a lot of other interests, you know. I mean, your movie does a really good job of showing like the controlling the weather is like kind of controlling the world, right? And these guys are all about control, right? And when you take this stuff up high enough, it's not a lot of people that are controlling a lot of the world, right? So that's my take on it. But you know, recently, you know, like so you're in Ashland. Here we are in Eugene. We saw the biggest burn we've ever seen in Oregon over this last summer, and I got to be real honest, it didn't feel very natural. I mean, there were certainly a lot of reports of people arson going on, a lot of arson like synchronized, seeming like across the state and you know, in other states. And I think as far as Utah, I heard of you know, arson at kind of the same time, but but it just seemed really unnatural. You know, did you have a lot of experience with this? Do you think there was some geoengineering going on? What would you say about the fires we saw this year?
I could write a book on it, and we could do the whole show on just that. So have you seen the recent Time magazine cover?
No.
Either of you? I don't know if you can pull it up and take a look. It's so telling. There's hands lighting there's hands outside of the perspective of the Time magazine cover art, and the hands are lighting with torches. Northern California and Oregon, Australia, and it's and literally this is all going to play out and be featured in my film, unfortunately, Frankenskies 2 Climate Chains, because it's a Hegelian dialectic problem reaction solution. They're creating this problem, and guess what they're blaming? Climate change. And they're saying, oh, well, these fires, they're unnatural, and oh, we got to do something about it. What are we going to do? We need to control the heating of the planet. We're going to dim your sun. It's called geo-engineering. You're welcome. You might not be able to grow plants, but don't worry, you won't be on fire anymore. So that Time magazine recently, I just bought it yesterday, actually. So it's a very staggering, like it's so in your face. There's hands lighting it. It's not lightning, you know, and they'll say it's coming from natural sources. So what happened last year? We got the proverbial California got about 11,000 lightning strikes in 48 hours, is a world record. And all these fires erupted in California overnight, literally. And then all of the resources from the bordering state of Oregon, oh, our lovely Kate Brown, she just sends every freaking thing that we've got to California because, you know, Oregon never catches on fire. And then, sarcasm. And then there was politically motivated, it seemed, because Portland had over 100 fires lit by Antifa, and these Antifa characters, Soros funded, whatever, to kind of bring some tension to the nation, going into the elections. These Antifa people who were like hired, and they're not even really Antifa, but either way, they're literally going down the I-5 freeway, lighting fires, going to jail, getting out, lighting fires that day, same day. Getting right out of jail, lighting more fires. So in Ashland, where I live, we had these crazy winds that everyone was saying, what's up with these winds? Are they geoengineered? These winds are crazy. And a few fires were very selectively lit in these specific locations. And what happened, I got to tell you guys what happened. We lost 2,200 homes in Talent, Oregon. It neighbors Ashland, Oregon. And this is like beautiful wine country down here. And all of these homes that went up were low income. Like we lost every single low income home. And it was very, 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 very seemingly strategic. So there's all these different players at play. So we've got one thing is the Aclara 210 smart meter. So there's this one smart meter that we had in the community that I had already talked to electricians about years ago, that they didn't have a surge protection to the main line. Very unique problem. that all the other smart meters don't have, where these things can just surge down the line, surge. So
can I stop you for 1 second, Matt? Can you just explain for our listeners like what these smart meters are? I don't think we've ever really talked about them on our show.
So smart meters are how I got into the EMF protective clothing line.
Sure.
It's really what started bringing light to me about EMF sensitivities. I was working on the film Frankenskies. I was staying at home a lot, editing, and on the other side of the wall, I lived in British Columbia, right outside Vancouver, in this cute little island community, Sunshine Coast. Doesn't matter, but just a few feet from my office, where I was working all day, and a few feet from where I was sleeping in my same room, was this smart meter. And what a smart meter is this, the old analog meters that measure your electricity usage. They have a meter made. A person working for the company will come every month and look at your electricity usage, write it down, and give you the power bill. Well, now there's an electrical digital meter, and depending on where you live, there's different types of these smart meters. And in a lot of places, they send every 5 seconds to a cell tower up to 30 miles away how much energy you've used over the past 5 seconds. So it's constantly emitting a radio frequency wave that emits a lot of radiation and travels really far. And it's like having a little cell tower right on the side of your home. And distance is your friend, but if you don't know about it and you're sleeping right next to it, you can start getting heart palpitations like I did. And I got really electrical sensitive, and I started learning about all of this stuff from just that. So these smart meters in Talent, Oregon, and Ashland, well, not Ashland, Ashland's totally different, but Talent, Oregon, the city that burned, they, I say that because they have their own electric company, Ashland does, and they don't have any smart meters at all. They have only non-RF emitting, like digital meters and analog meters, and they don't, in the whole town. Some places are really keen and aware, but others are not. So what happened in this situation, okay, where we had these arson cases and these crazy winds, is the firemen came to put out these fires in these neighborhoods with these extreme winds. And when they went to put their hoses on the fire hydrants, there was no water. So that was bad. Also, most of our resources were in California. So the big trucks and the big planes and all these things that should have showed up to help us, they weren't able to show up. So there was that. So that was really interesting. Also, the path of the fire seemed to go along with the cell towers in the valley, and it was very curious. So why did the fire hydrants have no water? Well, there was a big green sustainability plan that came into the valley because of climate change a few years back. And what happened was, so geographically, we're on the base of a volcano, Mount Ashland. And then if you go a little south, there's Mount Shasta, and there's like a series of volcanoes. But either way, we're on the base of a mountain, Mount Ashland. And so it goes Ashland, and then the town of Talent, and then the town of Phoenix, and then the town of Medford. And Medford's on the Rogue River and gets plenty of water. And so we have a little pipeline that goes from Medford through the 3 cities. It's like 10 miles, whatever, a few cities in this valley. And that's where we get our water from. So this green project came and said, oh, we want to do water conservation. We're going to literally dig up that pipe, take it out, and put you in a little thin pipe so you can only get a certain amount of water pressure so you don't use up too much water. For the 3 cities, they can only use 4 fire hydrants at a time. The 5th fire hydrant doesn't have enough pressure to even work. So if these 3 cities have fires anytime, once they start opening up fire hydrants, the 5th, 6th, 7th, 8th, 100th fire hydrants won't even work. So it's already one like big setup, weird agenda. And then what they're saying is forest fires and climate change.
Yeah.
Okay, there was arson. There was a total setup, it seems like, but either way, there was a mismanagement of water and pressure and the water pressure. Everyone was sent out of town, you know, like if you really step back and see the writing on the walls, the winds were engineered, the fires were lit, the hoses were basically purposely set up to be turned off, and these smart meters were seemingly exploding with just a little bit of surge down the line. And we lost 2,200 homes in broad freaking daylight. Okay. And now none of them have been even rebuilt. Right. And this was in September. So they're coming along and they're building the mansions, but all these people these 2,200 families, all the low income, I mean, it seemed where I was at, it seemed pretty purposeful because like I'm in Napa kind of like wine country and there's nothing but amazing real estate, and all of the low income people just kind of got flushed out of town. It seems like that the town got remodeled. None of the infrastructure was burned. The police station, the Shakespeare Festival theaters, and all their bougie little whatevers. But the reggae club got burned. The bookstore got burned, and like every single trailer got burned. And it's very questionable and suspicious. But you know, if you take a big step back and you see the Time magazine headline, I mean, not even headline, the front page, it's quite obvious what they're doing. They won't even, and the national headlines, they didn't even say anything about arson, which is how these fires even started. Like they were, the whole state was lit up. And what does the global headline say? They say forest fires, climate change. What are we going to do? And I think that we're going to experience more and more of it, and we'll probably end up with these zones that they won't let us rebuild in because they're so fire prone, and then this whole agenda starts to really unravel.
And so, and I've heard you talk before, and now some of the chemtrail stuff that we are seeing sprayed too. I mean, I think you've alluded to this being almost like accelerant for these fires to go up too. And I think I remember you being in a place and watching something go up. Do you remember that story? I think I heard
fire accelerants for one. Yeah. So the aluminum and so here's the deal. We're trying to just put the pieces together. We see these lines in the sky, and we're like, wait, what's going on? We're told, oh, it's the barometric pressure and how much humidity is in the atmosphere, and there's heat coming out of the back of the jet, so hot that they're creating condensation and creating clouds as they come out. In 1965, most all of the jets were outfitted with these Rolls-Royce turbofan jet engines. They're fans. If there was jet fuel combusting and blasting hot air, these planes would not make it across the freaking Atlantic or Pacific Ocean. They're very fuel efficient. There's even talk of air compressors in the planes that run the planes a lot, not during takeoff or landing, but there's a lot of people coming out talking about these air compression systems. But either way, they're just fans. There's no hot air coming out. So when we do see these chemicals, people start to ask questions. And then if it rains the next day, they're testing their rainwater, and the rainwater is matching up identical to what NASA says they're spraying to make noctilucent clouds, and what weather modification patents go back 30, 50 years say that they're using. And it's aluminum salts and barium and aluminum, barium, and strontium, but especially the aluminum and the barium, the aluminum oxide, and barium salts. The aluminum oxides and the barium salts are patented fire accelerants. So people have been witnessing these forests, especially in the Pacific Northwest, and they see these forests getting grid and sprayed and sprayed and sprayed, and we're wondering what the heck is going on? What the heck is going on? It makes sense when they modify a storm. It makes sense when they seed it and make it rain. It makes sense when they make it not rain. You spray aluminum, you can dissipate moisture. You spray dry ice, which is actually frozen carbon dioxide, which is like what they spray in the atmosphere to modify the weather. It's revealed in the documentary Frankenskies. They'll never tell you that they sprayed the massive amounts of carbon dioxide in the atmosphere because they want to blame us for, it and whatnot. But also silver will seed clouds and make it rain. And hydro plants will put it in the paper. We're going to seed the clouds and make it rain. And resorts, like ski resorts, will make it rain publicly. But literally, that's where it ends, and the public knowledge is not there. Okay. Well, once people started realizing, oh, they're spraying aluminum and barium and strontium, it's coming up in my rainwater, it's coming up in my hair, my blood. Like 40 people came together in Kingman, Arizona, upset about the chemtrails, tested their blood, and they all found the same constituents: aluminum, barium, strontium. So what's happening? It's embedded in the trees now. And then when the aluminum gets in the trees, they can't uptake water properly, right? So they're drought stricken, and they're literally combustible because they're full of this nonsense. And I honestly think that they can act as antennas, and fires can be literally steered now using, the whole Internet of Things and the whole lineup of cell towers and whatnot. And even these winds, you can steer the winds with all of these. I mean, they spray the skies and light up the sky with frequencies. There used to be this HARP antenna array in Alaska, but now they have this mobilized, like all over the world, these mobilized ionospheric heaters that use Tesla technology and intersecting radio frequencies to literally superheat the atmosphere. And by creating these high pressure systems, they can create winds and blow them which way they want, and incorporating the 5G with an aluminized sky, not even sky, but ground level illuminized air, which will tend to just fall down on the ground. But if you can suspend them by agitating them with 5G frequencies, then you can, continue this dystopia. And then literally 5G, it's a very small carrier wave. So I'm just going to get into this for really quick.
Sure.
So 5G is the progression of the cell phone technology, 2G, 3G, 4G, 5G, but it has nothing to do with its predecessor, 4G and 4G LTE, which stands for long-term evolution leading to 5G. So what 5G is it's a radio frequency carrier wave that carries information, but it ends up being hazardous because the carrier waves are really small and they absorb into our body. So all the invisible carrier waves, they're called radio waves. All of the radio waves that we use are have different properties. Okay, so we have Wi-Fi, cell phones, smart meters, even baby monitors, even ham radios, AM and FM radio waves. They're all radio waves, and they actually are all on the light spectrum. They're just lights that we can't see. If we had actually bigger eyes and our curvature of our eyes were different, cell towers and smart meters and even Wi-Fi routers would look like balls of bright light. And the further we got away from it, the less bright it would be, but that's how it would look. Sure. But we just don't have the eyes to see the light, but our bodies think it's light. Our pineal gland think it's light, our skin thinks it's light, and our endocrine system, our hormonal system think that we're around light when we're around these things. And that's why it's important to shut off your devices at night, because your system gets thrown off. So these waves that information is carried on, they have properties. So they have the size of the wave is based on the measurement from peak to peak. So AM radio waves are really huge, like 100 feet. They're 100 feet tall, and they can go through buildings and houses and people and travel really far. That's why you can get AM stations anywhere, and you're not even right next to an AM radio tower. Well, FM radio waves are smaller. They're 10 feet. You can still pick them up everywhere, and they'll go through you. They won't harm you. So the waves start to get smaller and smaller and smaller and then the smaller the wave, the more you can more information you can carry on it, because there's more waves going by per second, which is measurement of hertz. Hertz is a measurement of how many waves go by per second, studied by Heinrich Hertz, who got so radiated he died in his 30s. But either way, Hertz, and they do hurt too if you get too many of them. So all the way down to the current technology of 5G. 5G was actually created in I was a militarized frequency in the Middle East. They were able to create an active denial system, ADS, and it looks like a cell tower on a Hummer. And what it does is it emits a radio frequency wave that's about measurable. It's about a millimeter or a couple millimeters in height. And they've tuned it to the perfect size that it absorbs and hits your nerve cells in your skin, and it burns your skin. So it was for insurgencies, and it was literally a denial zone, a frequency fence, so that if the enemy tried to come into this zone, they can blast them with this frequency and they won't come in. So that technology was tuned to a point where it wasn't like literally absorbing in your skin, but it still absorbs and hits your body and absorbs into your skin, but doesn't hit your nerves, okay? So this carrier wave is absorbing into everything it hits, us, leaves, water droplets, everything. So it's kind of like an archaic technology to carry information on. It'd make much more sense to utilize things like Wi-Fi that can go through walls and stuff like that. So the 5G environment, if you've got an illuminized metallic air, it'll be able to travel much further because things are conductive. Right now, you need a small cell tower every 500 feet, and then they get the phones involved, and the phones repeat the signal, and the phones end up being little cell towers. You don't want to carry around a 5G phone in your pocket. Mm-hmm. Honestly, you don't want to carry around an iPhone anymore. So I'll just segue into this. This has been really fascinating. I have an EMF protective clothing line called Spero, Spero. Thank you for following me on Instagram, you guys, Spero Gear, and then I have sperogear.com and whatnot. And so I've been making baby blankets lined with silver material that deflects the electromagnetic signal from anything radio frequency. So cell phones, all that stuff, 5G and Wi-Fi just bounces off the silver fabric. So I made these foam bags, and it's a Faraday foam bag. You put your phone in, and it just kills the signal. You can't get any messages inside your phone. So I came out with the company a couple years ago, Spero, and it's slowly growing, and I'm really happy to do something activism that can, fund my life because crowd funds weren't really I can't do any more crowd funds. So here I am, I'm selling these bags all over the world, these phone bags, and everyone's really stoked. They put their phone in, they cinch the top, they don't get any signal, they don't get any phone calls. It just kills the phone. Well, last spring, coincidentally, right when all this stuff started coming out with the virus, I lost my YouTube channel, so I'm going to be very careful with the words that I say just to help you guys.
You don't have to worry about anything. Like you were
okay, cool.
Say anything you want.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Sweet, I love it. So I'm starting to firmly believe that to get 5G to work, these certain carriers and these certain phones were cranked up on a totally new bandwidth. Okay. So people started hitting me up telling me that I was a fraud, that they bought my phone bag, that it worked fine for them. And then all of a sudden it just stopped working. Flint, Michigan, Fort Lauderdale, Florida, Los Angeles, LA, everyone in LA. Okay. Your phone bag doesn't work anymore. I'm like, what do you mean? It doesn't work. They sent it to me where I lived in Northern California or even in Ashland, and the phone bag works just fine, right where I live. So I started to finally put the pieces together that people's phones were just being cranked up to the point that they were blasting through these bags where they never did before. And they don't penetrate the bags in New Zealand or Australia or any of Europe, not yet. So that's really fascinating. So I started making double layered bags, 2 layers of silver, and I never thought I would have to. And now they work. I sent them all the customers and they worked. So I started trying to put the pieces together. Wait, were these phones radiating the crap out of people? Is that what they're thinking is COVID? And my buddy back from DC, he hit me up and he said, and he's totally mainstream or whatever. And he's like, I just want to let you know, because I'm following your Facebook posts and I think you're full of shit. I just want to let you know, I got COVID. And I was like, well, with all due respect, I'm glad you're okay, brother. Like what happened? And he goes, well, it just hit me like a ton of bricks. All of a sudden I couldn't taste or smell. And I had this like weird brain fog. I couldn't, operate for 2 weeks. I couldn't go into work. I was like, okay, right on. Well, what kind of phone do you have, if you don't mind my asking? He goes, well, actually, me and my wife just switched over to the new iPhones. I was like, well, did it happen right when you? And he was like, well, actually it did, but that doesn't mean anything. And I go, brother, can I just tell you that radiation sickness symptoms are loss of taste, loss of smell, and brain fog? And he's like, well, I'm not buying that. And I go, well, did you have any like symptoms of a virus, like fever or like, all those things? He's like, no, none of that. And I'm like, all right, bro, well, I'm going to talk about you on every radio show from this point forward.
That's great.
But yeah, I thought it was very fascinating. And like people, like the powers that be are very fucking smart, man.
Yep.
And they will turn us on each other before we can even put the pieces of the puzzle together.
Yep.
So before any of this even happened, before any of the ducks were put in the row or whatever, the conspiracy theory was online and viral that people were dropping dead in Wuhan from the Wuhan shuffle or whatever, the COVID thing. Yeah. And people were like, oh, it's because they turned on 5G. Yeah. But it wasn't that they had a phone in their pocket. It was that the antennas were on and everyone's dropping dead, right? So then 77 towers were burned to the ground in Europe or something, which I don't think was true. I don't think activists have I know people that are awake and they're amazing and they're generally moms, and no one's burning down cell towers. It's not happening. I think that was like a controlled narrative to make people seem crazy who thought that COVID was the virus was COVID. And there weren't any facts behind it. So it's like people were going around, no, it's 5G, but it really helped my company. Like I got blown up. People were asking me for shirts and sweatshirts and all these things that I didn't even provide at the time. And I was like, well, there's a demand for it. And maybe maybe the company's ready to grow. And it did. But after witnessing it all, I think very firmly, and I've seen this in different ways. Like when I first went to Portland and tried to I hosted a conference, Global Chemtrails Summit in 2019. I was out on the streets passing out flyers, and I met people that had such a very solid preconceived notion about what chemtrails were, and they had met chemtrail activists on the street that were like homeless people, like smeared in poop, like with big signs of chemtrails, and being like, chemtrails are real, I'm a crazy person. And so like that tinfoil hat, like the whole thing, like the powers that be would much rather hijack a concept, tell you that it's bogus in their own way, control that dialogue. And then it's actually true, come to find out, like the directed energy weapons thing, the DEW directed energy weapons, that thing went totally viral.
Yeah.
I couldn't believe it. And people were coming up to me. I'm going in the farmer's market, like literally with my chemtrail flyers. And I had a woman approach me before I could hand her a flyer and scream in my face about laser beams from cloaked planes coming. I was living in Santa Rosa at the time. And she was telling me laser beams were coming from invisible planes and burning up houses and that we all need to wake up. And she was freaking out. And I paused with her and I said, "Are you talking to people like this?" She's like, "Yeah, none of my friends believe me. Nobody wants to hear any of it." And I realized that you can spin the people out, the truthers, you can spin them out so bad that they work against the truth, you know? And it's really real. And it means that we have to keep our head on our shoulders and be very grounded with the information.
Mm-hmm.
And it's so spun out and skewed. What I do every day is I read USA Today. I go to the headlines, I look at that, and I see what they do to the truthers and how they try to flip it. And now what they're doing with the vaccines and stuff, it's really crazy.
Goodness.
But yeah, that's my spiel on that one. So what do you think?
Amazing.
About that?
It's amazing. And not only that, like staying grounded in the truth and not let it get away from you. You know, we've seen a lot of that, whether on both sides, you know, I mean, like the Q movement, I know for sure. Also, I would say, you know, in my life, living here in Eugene, it's unavoidable being around people who are falling for all this. It's hook, line, and sinker, you know, and it's typically the folks that are representing, you know, the Antifas and everything. They visualize in their heads that they're these like revolutionary anarchist people. But to me, and maybe to the degrees leading up to Antifa, that's like on the far extreme, but all of them leading up to them, you know, I have to associate with people on a daily basis just because I'm still in the matrix to a certain degree. You know, but like these folks, they literally, in all of their anti-establishment, anti-whatever it is, they claim to stand for, they're literally just big pharma shills who just take their orders from mainstream media and just can't wait for daddy government to tell them what to do next. It just baffles me.
Well, I think, I mean, Eugene is just a perfect example. Is to, you know, I mean, we have a big counterculture here, right? We have for a long time. It's kind of represented, and as something I kind of almost took pride in, like what we stood for here, but it's just been co-opted at this point. It's just, I mean, it's almost part of the two-party system thing. I mean, there's a lot of different pieces to it, but they've aligned. I think social media is a huge part of it. They've really pushed people down these ways, so people don't think for themselves anymore. If you align with this belief, then you have all these other beliefs that just fit into that category, and that's what you stand for. You know, you don't independently think of these issues separately. It's rough.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Go for it. I was just gonna say, and if you diverge from that specific set of guidelines, then you're a Nazi. You're automatically a Nazi. Right? You just diverge just a little bit, 1 degree off this way. You're a Nazi. You're a white supremacist and a domestic terrorist. Man.
I mean, I do think though, you know, the challenge is to not fall into the trap, because it is so easy to get angry. It's so easy to get pissed off. Like, I mean, you know, we live in a land of masks everywhere, you know, and these people, we can't be against them. At the end of the day, it feels like we're totally against them. It feels like they're walking us off the cliff. But you actually had a post recently, Matt, where you came out of a Facebook jail, I think it was, and just kind of, you know, you want to talk a little bit about, you kind of came to the realization, to me, it just felt like, it really struck me. It's just like, you know, these people are not our enemies. We have to fight this thing with love, because we're not going to make it with the hate, right?
Well, yeah. I mean, where I'm living, people are wearing 2 masks and a face shield, and they're riding by on a bicycle cursing me, saying, "I hope you get COVID," because I got you standing there with my face out. And I've witnessed it really, really firsthand. I think honest, and people ask me like, why are they so attracted to you? I think I just like have that bright energy, and they're just like, oh, and their demons are like, it's him, get him.
Yeah,
you know,
totally.
Like people will literally see me with my face out and just come up and be like, how could you? And I'm just like, I'm not the only one out here. I had an old man tell me he was going to kick me in the head once. I've experienced so much, and it's just the hypocrisy was getting to me. Like someone will tell me to get 6 feet away from them at the grocery store checkout, but that person leaned over and touched me 5 seconds ago to get an avocado. It's like, but I did do 30 days out of the world. So firstly, you said it's social media, you know, like none of this could have happened 20 years ago.
Yeah.
No way. People would have been like, what are you talking about? And like towns would be totally independent of it and they wouldn't have any COVID or anything. Like they have it set up for us now. And like you said, they know everyone's compartmentalized and there's just little categories, and Facebook's like, yeah, put a smiley face or a sad face, or you hate this and what do you hate? What do you like? And we're going to control the conversation and the dialogue, you know. But I had to snap out of it because frequency is real and it'll eat you alive if you live in fear. I'll tell a very important, I feel it's very, very important. So when all this started to happen, I had a friend that works at a juice bar, and he told me he was totally, you know, aware and awake and all this stuff. And he knew that COVID was nonsense, but he was just surrounded by people freaking out, and he had to wear the mask, and they ended up putting a plexiglass wall in front of him at the juice bar, and he's, you know, hand sanitizing like crazy even though he knows he shouldn't be and stuff like that. And I went to visit him. This is just a couple months into, this is like 1 year ago, this is like 2 months into the whole COVID thing, you know, around 1 year ago. And he's on his lunch break and he's hunched over, dude, and like literally overwhelmed by the fear of it all. Just fear is like a contagious frequency. And I grabbed him and gave him this huge hug. And I was like, bro, you got to snap out of this. And he did. But then when I left, I literally was like, it was so contagious that like I had the fear. And I'm like, I was like so sketched out. I thought I was going to get pulled over. I didn't want to drive. I didn't want to do anything. And I was overcome for like an hour. Like I was like, is COVID really real? Have I been totally like, am I on the wrong side? You know? And then I snapped out of it because I'm not, you know, that kind of person. I'm not a lot of people want to be a victim and they want to live in this and be like, oh, I've done the rules and you know, it's just like, I don't live that victimhood freaking brainwashing crap. So I snapped out of it. And what I was able to do is witness it, like how you witness your ego sometimes or whatever. And I witnessed that frequency of fear, right? And recently I witnessed this frequency of like hatred and animosity. And I literally was going out the door and being like, oh, that motherfucker's wearing a mask. Oh, fuck that guy. You know, and I was like cursing somebody that was like wearing a mask, and it's like early in the morning, you know, and I saw them like take it off, and it was like this beautiful old lady, you know, and her eyes and her face, and she smiles at me and and it just like crumbled, everything crumbled, and I was like, what is wrong with me? Am I gonna hate my way into like they want us to fight? You know, like they told us we're gonna be in a civil war. They told us Trump wasn't gonna get out of office, and they were like, everyone's buying guns. You gotta buy guns. Everyone get guns. Guns. The guns are sold out. You can't get any more guns. Who's gonna have enough guns? There's not gonna be enough ammo for your civil war. Who's gonna have the guns? I mean, like I literally went to the gun store and they told me they were sold out. I was like, oh my God, I need guns. Okay. Now they're like, it's racism, and they're putting this, they want us to fight each other. That's what they want. They can't win this war. Like, we have the numbers, we have like God on our side. We have like this ascension, spiritual evolution, destiny of humanity, or whatever we're here to do. Like, they cannot. And also there's like karmic things. Like if they wanted to line us up right now and literally give everybody a jab and put us into slavery and be like, you're a robot now, we took your soul, they could do that shit, but they can't, because there's like karma and there's ramifications and there's rules to this realm that we live in. There literally is rules. That's why they have to program us and predictive program us and get us to fall in line and get us to fight each other. That's what they want, is to get us to fight one another and to look at each other and be like, do they have the vaccine? And then eventually it's going to be like, oh, well, I got the QR code on my forehead because I got the vaccine. And where's your QR code on your forehead? And there's going to be this like hatred. And that's what they want. So how are we going to win the war fighting them with like hatred and like looking at your neighbor and being like, oh, did they get the vaccine? And like, dude, the only way to win this war is through love, not fear, not hatred. And how's it going to, I mean, like, they want us. I was analyzing this Bill Gates thing recently a lot, because all I do is like try to figure out what the fuck are we gonna do, right?
Totally.
So Bill Gates is now this like idol for evil and hate and animosity. He's gonna dim the sun. He owns more agriculture in the United States than anybody. He bought the Canadian rail system. Okay, we're going into maybe a food shortage, and they're gonna blame him. He wants to depopulate with I don't know what, but then he's behind the vaccines. He's the vaccine guy. You go on Google and you type in who's the most powerful doctor in the world. He's not even a doctor, and it says Bill Gates, right?
Yep.
So they're bashing him on his Instagram. Oh, you want to block the sun? You want to kill us with the vaccines? Oh, you're an evil guy, evil. We hate him. We hate him. We're not gonna. What are we gonna do? What are we gonna do? Go fight Bill Gates and take on the U.S. industrial military complex and fight our own soldiers with stealth bombers? And they do have cloaked drones that can shoot laser beams at us. Are they doing it right now? I doubt it. But like that whole story, I think it's the smart meters blowing up on the ground level, and then they're saying, "Oh, there's invisible drones. Oh, don't look at anything at the ground level." Even PG&E, who was Enron, the power company in California, after the Paradise fires, they came out and they said, "Oh, our bad. We're going bankrupt. There were surges in the line because of a down power line." They don't say that the smart meters exploded and burned down and pulverized all the homes, okay? But they tell you enough to maybe sidestep their karmic obligation or whatever. Why do they tell us the truth all the time? I have no idea. But did I answer your question?
No, yeah, you for sure did.
Just love. I mean, and I think when you look at the end of the
love.
day, like both sides are fighting the same enemy from different attack vectors. Really, we're fighting the same enemy and essentially want the same thing, like less government, like get out of our lives, like stop, and it's just once that's their biggest fear, is for all of us to obviously come together and realize that we all have more in common than we do apart. And it's really just like a class issue, maybe. I don't know, but really it is truly the answer. It's hard though. I get bogged down in that all the time, and it's almost like
we have to lift each other up, because I think we're all kind of on this like emotional roller coaster thing that's going on constantly. I mean, that's part of what's going on, right? So but I have to ask about one more specific instance though, Matt. Like, so after our fires on the West Coast, we just saw what happened in Texas. And I wanted to get your opinion, like that big snowstorm. And obviously, looking at it from the the point of the dialectic, like, I mean, I think that it's, there was their power grid, how they had it set up there. It was almost like there was, how it was told to me, it was almost like a Wall Street, where like all these power companies were bidding, and they didn't want to, like, the power didn't come back on just because people wanted to make money, right? And it was this system that was it's look at that didn't work, so now we have to redo the whole structure, right? So it's a really loose way of putting it, but anyways, it seems like there's a very like the solution was the goal, right? So what's your take on what happened in Texas?
So I did a show recently, and I had a whiteboard out, and it was easily explained. But please help me visualize this. So clear your mind. Okay, so there's an atmospheric river called the jet stream. It's literally a river in the atmosphere, in like the upper atmosphere. It comes off the Pacific Ocean, and the mouth of the atmospheric river goes from about San Francisco all the way up to Canada, this mouth of the river. And that's where all the traditional moisture comes in. And usually, over the past, humanity, the moisture would come into the Pacific Northwest, and it would basically rain from mid-October through the spring, just like Seattle, kind of the rain system. Well, that's been manipulated. And what they can do with their technology is they can make a high pressure system with the ionosphere heaters. They create a high pressure bubble, like rising hot air. So when the jet stream comes and tries to go across the United States, what they can do is bend the jet stream and redirect it by it hits a wall outside on the coast of California, a big high pressure hot air wall, and then it goes north, and then wherever they want it, what they did, what happens is they direct the jet stream to do what they want to do. We've got this polar vortex thing that was never a thing before. We've got this Hurricane Alley crazy stuff. In my presentations that I do regarding all this, there was Hurricane Joaquin was an atmospheric river fire hose. And it was like this hurricane was directionalized, and a fire hose came off of it and targeted South Carolina for once in 1,000 years floods. And it was this weaponization of hurricanes, weaponization of the jet stream. What they did in Austin was the jet stream was super abnormally bent. It went at a right angle, actually, and it went north, went and bent all the way and got some crazy cold air, and then took another right angle and went south and just literally barreled down on Austin. And if you are familiar with weather patterns and study like I do, you know that it very rarely happens like that. And witnesses there were showing the sky the day before, and it was totally zapped all crazy with these frequency lines going through it, like something crazy was going on. And it seems like what they did was, there's a lot that they did, but it was a small scale test on this food supply disruption that I feel like is in the cards. We've been warned about it. I mean, even the depopulation agenda is warned through media, like Children of Men, the movie, or this Handmaid's Tale and all this nonsense. I mean, the conditioning programming gets really deep. Even this Mars bullshit and Elon Musk and whatnot. You go to the 1990 Total Recall film, Arnold Schwarzenegger gets a chip in his head. He never goes to Mars. And now Elon Musk is like, yeah, don't worry, we're going to go to Mars, but you got to be part robot. We got to be able to put chips in your head. It's going to be all right. Don't worry. It's going to be great. Nobody's going to go anywhere, dude. It's just like they've told us in our films, and here we are, we're experiencing it. And Geostorm, same nonsense. So a lot of people are waking up, however, which is really interesting. It seems like that the more they do with their weather like people in Austin that never knew about weather modification are like, we saw some shit go down and we don't believe you guys anymore. So, I mean, the more that they do, the more they show their colors, and the more people wake up. There's this metaphor or whatever that I've been saying. Us truth bringers and truth seekers, we've been planting these seeds everywhere, trying to plant these seeds so people can wake up, you know? But now we're in the most fertile soil we've ever seen. Like these seeds can finally come to fruition and blossom and germinate, because the proverbial rain thumping on and the perfect temperatures, the compression, and all the nutrients and stuff, that's what all these lies are. This empire of lies that they're setting up, they're literally they're setting themselves up for failure, because all these starseed kind of people are being forced to wake up now. Not everybody was ever forced to freaking completely take a 180 in their life, but now people are, or they're going to face the consequences, you know. But I think that was kind of negative. I think that people will wake up either now or later, you know, and the consequences of them not waking up now are waking up later.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it used to be that, you know, I mean, like things like politics or whatever it was, you know, it didn't really affect your life on a personal level. Like right now, what's going on is affecting everybody's life on a personal level. So you have to either buy the media shovelware they're sending you, or you know, think for yourself. And if it's I mean, I think if you're a critical thinker, it's hard to not see through some of this, right? Like it just, I feel like the house of cards falls really easily. But
if you take one step outside of the mainstream, like MSNBC, even Fox News, like all of it, you take one step, 1 degree outside of that, everybody's talking about the Great Reset. Everybody's talking about, you know, the PCR tests. You know, you ask these people, like that's one of my usual, like I've had this a couple of times where folks that are like fully maybe just questioning a little bit. I have a coworker who's kind of been like, what? You know what I mean? And a good entryway into that is just ask like, well, do you know what do you think about the Great Reset? And they're like, what's that? Of course they're not talking about that on MSNBC. Of course they're not talking about that in the New York Times. You know what I mean? And you know, I've heard some people go so far to say, well, maybe we need a Great Reset. Yeah, but we don't need a Great Reset by the people who screwed it all up to begin with and would benefit from it at all of our expenses. So I don't know. I mean, I'd love a Great Reset. I'd love a Great Reset, a people's Great Reset, right? You know, so you obviously have other movements like the Greater Reset, you know, like Derek Bros and all them, and the Freedom Cells movement, you know, like there's things happening. And I think that's another big thing that for me, that this whole thing has brought us to. It's brought us to a place where I have to cancel the idea that anything outside of myself or any sort of perceived authority is going to come and save my day, save the day, help me, save me, has my best interest in mind. No, I have to turn it all completely inward, you know, seek out my own answers, and I have to build my own community, and I have to become as self-sufficient as physically possible at this point.
Yeah, certainly. So, yeah, that's been certainly our journey. So, so Matt, where's your next activism?
Yeah.
I've got a sign that says breath is life, and every Saturday I go and hold it, and I get a lot of middle fingers and I get a lot of hugs, and it's an amazing place to be. Ashland is kind of like the heart of the beast. Ashland does not know that it's in Oregon, which is kind of fascinating. So, but there are people who do realize that it is that, but it's kind of like a retirement community, and I get this incredible feedback. Also, I'm planning on doing, dude, I mean, you ask where's the next activism? Well, where can I even have a Frankenskies screening? I'm looking at Sandpoint, Idaho, and I'm looking at Florida, but I think I'll be just taking the film on tour and screening Frankenskies on a wall in your local alley. Like, I'm just going to go everywhere this summer that I can, because I'm not sure how easily we'll be able to free flow, you know, on into the future. An interesting hijacking of a term that I saw that I think is relevant is the word woke. I saw a whole article, and whenever you see one article, it's everywhere. It's in Forbes magazine, it's in Time magazine, it's in USA Today, it's in New York Times, because they want everyone to see the same thing in the collective consciousness to be altered. And this article said that there was a person who went to Disney World, and they were complaining that Disney World was now too woke. And then it gave addition of what, and it gave, did you see that?
Yeah,
it gave the definition of woke. And woke means not identifying with your foreign gender.
What?
And wearing tattoos. So like the staff at Disneyland was showing their tattoos and wearing jewelry and like being of the opposite sex that they were born with. And that's woke. And this guy was saying, like, this whole commentary, which was totally mind control, right? It's like, that's not what woke means. They're trying to hijack that word. They take every single thing and they flip it on his head. It's comedic, really. Yeah. Once you start to really, you know, realize. But once you start to step away, it's all a big joke, and you got to laugh at it. You know, when they came out with anal swabs, I yelled to my girlfriend, "This was a South Park episode, right?" and we laughed, right? But before that, she was crying at the headlines that I was reading her in the morning. You know, but we got to be able to snap out of it.
Yeah. We do a weekly premium episode. It's called the Clown Town Update, where we basically take the headlines throughout the week. There, yes, the anal swabs and the Caitlyn Jenner running as the Republican candidate in California. Just all the things are just like, oh no, what are we doing, everybody? What are we doing? What is this world happening? Like this, if this was like a comedy room, they'd be like, no, that's too preposterous. We can't do that. You know, like in a writer.
Yeah, they won't buy it. They won't buy it.
It's just like, no, what is happening? And so, you know, that's probably part of the psyop too. Just the slow degradation of just the attack on reality, the 2 + 2 = 5. The, you know, just like everything is just like, and that's what it is too. Like, how do I say this? Like, you know, it's pretty cut and dry on our side. Over there, they have to obscure everything. They have to obscure everything and stretch everything and make it just fit into somewhere where it doesn't necessarily fit. And you can't really just put it into a simple definition. And so just by that, you know what I mean? Does that make sense?
Or they just change the definition.
Change the definition. It's just like
how many dictionary definitions have changed in the last year?
But I don't know. You know, the more I look, I don't know. Like to what you were saying or what we were talking about earlier, just the mass awakening. We've been talking about a lot on this here. They call me the apocalyptimist, right? Because I really think that people are waking up massively, and people have to, just as fast as people are waking up, they're censoring and deplatforming. Yes. And that's the only reason why this has been able to be carried out. And it's like I think people are waking up to a point where eventually there's going to be a catalyzing moment. They're going to push too hard. They're going to push too fast. And people are going to be like, whoa. And we'll have planted enough seeds along the way that we'll be able to overcome this thing. Or it's going to be way too dark before the awakening happens.
I mean, this stuff is happening. I mean, we just talked to another guest last night about, it was a Vail, Arizona, where the schools were masking the children and the parents were getting upset and the teachers didn't want to do it. So they literally fired the entire school board and like set up a whole new school board. And so it is happening in places. I mean, there's a town in Oregon that's fighting back against, the Kate Brown mandates now, Baker City.
Shout out to Baker City.
There is pockets. We just need to support them. But Matt, I would love to get a screening of Frankenskies here. If you're ever able to make it up here, we will do our best to organize something. So we will talk more about that for sure. But and let's
Squatch Fest.
Yeah.
So Squatch Fest, I'll plug that too real quick. I don't know what you got going on mid-May, but May 13th through the 16th, I think, it's a Thursday through Sunday. Squatch Fest. It's like a Freedom Cells camp out up in southern Washington. I'm gonna be there. I don't know if these guys are going, but yeah, it's gonna be a big just a freedom camp out, dude.
Yeah. Cool. Sounds amazing.
Yeah. So tell us where people can find you, how they can support you, how they can get a Faraday cage for their phone.
Yeah,
for sure. And speaking to the optimism, I Well, firstly, I'm a little biased because I'm an activist, and I'm totally happy that all of this is happening because my life has so much important like value. You know, I was like, a couple of years ago, I was like, am I gonna stop these chemtrails? Is this my life? You know, is this really what I'm gonna be doing? But it's evolved so much now that I feel like the truth is so important. It is so important now that we have an amazing journey ahead of us, and we will like. I'm sorry, but the world that we're leaving behind, it was all right. But going to the bars and watching football games and shit like that, dude, we need to make a new world. We need to show the children. We need to honor the children with reverence, show them how to plant, grow food, different varieties, like bring back the world that we all deserve. And it's not digitized and it's not transhuman and it's not all this nonsense. So I would love to do a screening up there. I've had an amazing result. I did a speaking event in Eugene once and it was packed and it was amazing. So I would love to do another one, and that camp out sounds great. Please follow me on Facebook, Matt Landman. Also actualactivists.com. I've got a daily blog on there. I've got a vlog section, and I'm going to eventually turn this into like a fund your local activist kind of thing, and also a social media page. It's growing slowly but surely, but actualactivists.com. Please check it out and look out for the social media aspect of it. It's going to be intersecting brain maps and not this scrolling nonsense, brainwashing crap. Also, Spero protection clothing. If you go to Spero gear on Instagram, SPRO, it's the Latin word for hope, because I'm hoping to bring hope to the next generation through protection and baby blankets and maternity line and all this whatnot. As they put up these towers, we've got to bring the awareness and protect ourselves. So sperogear.com, Frankenskies.com, Frankenskies2.com, working on that. And you can upload your chemtrail pictures on the website, Frankenskies2. And Actual Activist is a plethora of research on this all-encompassing frequency that is truth. So it's fluoride and health and geo-engineering, aka chemtrails, and GMOs and vaccines. But especially the health portion, you click on health, and I've dumped all my health memes in there, and I'm going to be loading up the website slowly but surely. But if you click on health and you scroll down, you'll realize that it's maybe the best health website on the internet, because you can steal my memes, and I've collected so many. So thank you so much. It's really awesome. You guys are great, and thanks for holding the light up there in Oregon, where you know, never underestimate the seeds that we're planting. I know it's hard, and I beat myself up all the time. Am I doing enough? Like the chemtrails today, I was like, Matt, you fucking do it, dude. You lost. but people are hitting me up from Chico and the coast and all over the place. And I know that this is like a big agenda. It's not just over my head, and people are waking up and they're telling their friends and they're watching Frankenskies. And if you can wake up to chemtrails, you can wake up to all this stuff. Just like how you woke up to vaccines, brother. Like one little seed of truth, all these other things start to become self-evident, because it's like, wait a second, they're lying on the news all the time. So thank you all. I love you, and blessings for what you do.
Thank you so much.
Thanks so much, Matt. Appreciate it, brother. So we'll see you soon. Have a good
definitely.
night.
Cool.
Oh my God, you guys, dude. I mean, I'm gonna give myself a little. I saw Frankenskies. I don't know, like 6 months, I don't know, some time ago. And I was like, that is a guest we need to have on. Yep. Right. Like I'm like this guy, and like, so this has been a goal of mine for a long time.
Well, he's been on Tinfoil Hat.
Oh, he's been on everything.
Fireside Chat.
But I think so even great. Hearing him, but then like putting him with the documentary. I think the documentary, like, and we've said this to you guys before, but if you haven't watched it, please watch it. Or I'm really serious. I want to get a screening up here. Yeah. Like I think that if anybody could do it, it would be us, because we know the people that want to see this movie, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
So I think we should. That is a goal. That is a goal I'm setting for myself, that we're going to make that happen. Yeah. So I think that's necessary. But he's amazing and doing great things.
Good heart, good energy, a really good perspective, and considering all of the dingy, ugly, like him just saying, the way that people come against him, we've all dealt with that to varying degrees, and we know how demoralizing that can be. So to have somebody still say, you know, do this out of love, you know, come at this from a level head, you know, and to have everybody we come across in this truth community understands the power of being united, and sees the diabolical agenda between keeping us divided. And just to have him be able to express that so clearly, I thought was just, I've been saying this more and more with guests lately, but it just keeps adding this layer of hope, which, and I know I've said I tend to find I go into these little bad spaces of being black-pilled, and it's talking to people like him and seeing what he does and, the hope within him. And when he's in the thick of it, like we're in the thick of it in a different way. But it's so encouraging.
It's a nonstop barrage that's coming at all of us all the time. And that's why I said, I think it's true, is we kind of have to lift each other up, right? Like,
for sure.
Because when you're going to be down, I might be up, or when I'm down, you might be up. So we're going to have to help each other through this, right? And that's why we need the community. And that's why when we're going into extreme risk this week, what are we going to do tomorrow night, guys?
We're going to go dancing.
Live music and dancing.
Yep, that's right. Hell yeah, long came Trudy's, baby.
Yeah, for sure.
Yep.
Of course, by the time this come out, we will have done it.
Already done that. We'll probably
Friday. We would have done it Friday night.
We'll probably be in the gulags by the
past
time
tense.
this episode comes out. Right? Yeah. So
get away, Nazi!
Get away, Nazi!
Oh man, I love him. He's so great.
Yep.
Yeah, for sure.
Man, awesome.
All right, awesome. Everybody, thank you so very much for your continued support and your encouragement, your words of love, and for being united with us in this ongoing fight to bring the truth and plant seeds in the hearts and minds of those who seek it. Until next time, I am Megan, sitting here with my dear friends Scott and Ed, and we wish all of you intellectual prosperity. Good night.
Beep, 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 beep. Ding. Pew.